Julian?
My man, how you, Alex?
Good, bro. Man, how you feeling?
Obviously, I'm satisfied with the outcome. I wish I didn't get hurt in the process of it. I mean, I'm not hurt now, but it looks bad, obviously. You know, I have a lot of fights where I've gotten dropped and stuff like that, and people are going to run their mouth about it. I wasn't necessarily hurt in any specific situation. I mean, you see, there's a difference between seeing flashes and then moving and still fighting through that. And there's another thing, and then there's, you know, where you get almost concussed and you're like, you don't know where your equilibrium is all messed up. So I didn't get, you know, hurt in that kind of capacity, but I did see some flashes, and I know it looks bad, and I don't like stressing my wife out either. So I wish that didn't happen, but I'm happy with the outcome. You know, I needed a win.
If you can compare this to your last fight against Fernando,
Yeah.
I guess, like, what was the difference between damage? I guess damage and, like, you were just kind of explaining.
Yeah, I would say the first time Fernando had dropped me, that was a bit more damage. And then the second time he had caught me, I dropped to my knee and got back up. I was completely fine. And that's why I was a bit upset about the Chris Taione stoppage on that fight. But that's in the past. And, you know, it's kind of funny because walking in here, I didn't want to have Chris Taione as my ref just because I didn't want to deal with it. You know, I wanted to just move past it. There's other refs that could have refed me, and he comes over sure enough, he walks over to us, and I'm like, fuck, man. But we talked about it, and it was like, you know, we kind of buried the hatchet, and I just wanted to make sure he didn't have any weird feelings about the whole situation, just because I don't want him to be biased, you know. So we got past it, and he, you know, cornered me, or he refed me, and everything was good this time. So I'm happy about that, and I think we can just move on past it.
What was the game plan coming into the fight?
Obviously, you know, my game plan is always pretty similar, just pressure people until they break. But with him, we knew he was going to come out a bit wild and aggressive. But his last fight was Charles Jourdain, and Charles Jourdain caught him in a guillotine. And like I said on the mic, I don't want to take anything away from Charles Jourdain. I'm sure his grappling is really good, but I feel like my grappling is a hair above his at least. And so I knew if Charles could guillotine him, that my guillotine he was not going to get out of. And if that didn't work, my darts was going to finish him as well. So.
How much pressure did you have coming in on your shoulders, like needing a win, you know?
I mean, yeah, every single fight in the UFC, you have a lot of pressure on your shoulders, but I'm coming off 2 losses, you know, so I really need to get back in the win column. Because at one point you think you're on top of the world. I was on a 3-fight win streak, got a new contract. Then on the new contract, I lose to Caceres, which, you know, he's a top 15 guy. So, you know, that's not too bad in the sense of that, you know, you're fighting savages at that point. And then losing to Fernando the way I did was a bit frustrating. But walking into this one, you know, I knew I needed a win. I knew I could get a win. You know, all these guys that they're setting me up with are winnable fights for me. It's tough. I mean, it's so hard to describe the feeling you have when you're out there versus being in the gym and training and doing well in the gym and then going out there where all the lights are at. And so for me, this fight, just trying to really calm myself down before I went out there so I could see everything. I could tell. I mean, he's, you know, shaking his legs out before we fight. He's got a weird, nervous look on his face, and I've seen it in other fights of his as well. So I knew once we got out there and I was calm, cool, and collected, it would rub off on him in the sense of that he would be more nervous about it, and I felt like he was, and I always felt like his fights, he starts off fast because of the nervousness. So it's just a matter of time. If he gave me his neck, I was going to put him out. Luckily, he didn't hit me with anything too hard to put me out first.
Is Daddy Erosa a new mythical fighter?
Yes, 100%. You know, Papa Juice is going to be a problem. You know, I was telling Adam the other day when I was cutting weight that the first practice that I did, I went and grappled at open mat at 10 Planet, and I just felt almost invincible. You know, I was tired, hungry, thirsty, had, you know, hardly any sleep because my baby was just born 2 days prior to that, and was able to go in there and was like, just my grappling just felt so good, and I just felt so confident, and just almost like just give you a little bit of a mental boost.
I mean, also, you know, coming in with your kid being born eight years ago, like, was that lying on your mind as well, or could you put that to the side for a little bit?
Yeah, you know, when I'm in there, I'm really trying not to think about anything but the fight. But walking in the back, kind of pacing in the back, you know, no matter how calm you are, you're always going to be pacing. And so I'm pacing in the back, and all I'm trying to think about is the important things to make me be calm in the fight, you know. And I feel like, honestly, like even before I walked out, I just felt really calm. And I always try to portray being really calm, but always on the inside, I feel a bit hyper nervous. And so, but this time it was completely different. I really felt just like as lackadaisical as it comes, and that might have been a little bit of my downfall in the sense of getting hit. But I knew if this fight went past the first round, he was going to be exhausted, and I was going to be just warming up.
I'm sure you're going to take a little bit of time to go be a dad. But
yeah.
When would you like to return?
I mean, honestly, I would fight next weekend if they offered it, just because I really want to fight. I just like fighting. Like, training's great and all, and I like sparring and doing that kind of stuff, but you don't get paid for that. You get paid to be in the cage. So I want a quick turnaround, and it's been nice to have my kid for the last 8 days, because I know I can go through a fight camp and go through a fight week with a newborn. And so I think it'll just get easier as he gets older anyway. So it just gave me an outlook that I can, easily have a fight camp with him still and take care of him and do both and be fantastic at it. Is
there anybody in particular that you would like to fight?
I had a call out, but it's kind of corny, so I don't want to really do it. I wanted to do it out there. But it wasn't a fighter. It was kind of a goof. But I mean, honestly, anybody, like any of the there's a couple featherweights a couple featherweight fights on this card as well. I would take any of the winners of that, or whoever really, except for Billy Q. He's one of my homies, and as long as we don't have to fight each other, I would prefer that. But if it happens, it happens, because we're from different camps and we don't train with each other really, and so I could see them, obviously trying to set that up at some point. But I would never really want to do that if I could avoid it, and because he's my homie, and I'm hoping he goes out there and does a fantastic job as well.
And finally, first camp that you're basically full time with Extreme Couture.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Oh, it was fantastic. Switching my my lead coach into Eric Nixick has been a big help. He's one of those guys that's does his homework on everything. Like, he comes to every pad session with his iPad, and he has things he want to work on, things that your opponent's not good at, and holes that we can exploit and stuff like that. And in previous camps, I didn't necessarily have that. So it's nice to have a guy who's fully immersed in MMA there day in and day out. Obviously, he couldn't be here tonight. He was over with Jeremy Kennedy for Bellator in Belfast. But he's here in spirit, and so and it's all the hard work leading up that counts. It's not necessarily being in the corner. I got to go out there and do what I got to do regardless. So it's all the work leading up to it.
Congrats.
Thank you so much, Alex.
You can't say you have a goofy call out and then not tell us. He didn't follow up on it. I'm not going to let you get away with it.
All right. Well, I was going to say that I don't like cheaters, and so and I don't know how you guys feel about this whole situation, but I don't like cheaters, and so I wanted to call out Leah Thomas. I wanted to encourage her to encourage him to transition from women's swimming into women's MMA, and then I'll transition to becoming a woman, and I'm gonna beat that dude's ass. That's what I wanted to say, because it's all about getting the getting a little bit of shock value. But the world that we're living in is just there's no common sense anymore, and it's becoming a bit ridiculous, and obviously that's one of the big things that's always been in it's kind of going on now, and I just don't agree with men in women's sports, even the whole Fallon Fox thing, knocking and the girls or guys that are fighting in women's MMA and knocking them out. It's a bad look.
Since we're on this topic, do you find it clearly? Personally, I think when you're talking about a man transitioning into a women's sport, when there's a combat element, it just seems so much worse than say swimming, like you said.
100%.
Do you feel like there are any instances where it would make sense, or where it could
absolutely
be
not?
Okay.
No, I just fully believe. If you were, if you went through, male puberty, it's never gonna. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can give yourself to shrink your bones down. There's nothing you can do in that kind of sense. And the proof's in the pudding, right? Like, you have, Mr. Thomas, who was, whatever he was ranked as a man, and then he's just beating all the women. Like, it's obvious, it doesn't matter how much estrogen you're taking. And I think we're in obviously a gray area, but these gray areas are stupid to me because it's common sense. I'm not the smartest crayon in the box, but I could tell you, if I don't know anything about anything, I can still tell you that's unfair. Like, in my opinion, people are gonna have their opinions and say what they want, but it's just something I strongly believe in. That, it's so funny to me that women will fight for their own spaces, and then they also fight for trans women to be in those spaces. And those are just men. Like, when is it gonna be where there's going to be, hundreds of men in these sports, and then it just becomes another man sport? It's going to be it's so weird to me. I don't know. We could, dive into that can of worms all day, but yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Just two short ones over here. Obviously, congrats. And your opponent, Ricardo Ramos, in his last fight, he also got caught in a guillotine against Charles Jourdain. So going into this one, did you kind of foresee that, hey, he gets excited in some of these sequences, and so therefore something like this could happen?
Yeah, 100%. I knew that if we got in any kind of grappling situation, I was gonna, outsize him, outpower him. But I also have a really good front headlock series. My Dars and my guillotine are probably my 2 best chokes. And I catch some of the best guys in it, like in the gym on a regular basis. So I knew that if he decided to dive his head in, and I knew also that he wasn't going to go to the bitter end with it. With Charles, he tapped. And for me, I'm not tapping to a choke. I mean, I might tap to a heel hook because I want to save my knee. But if you're choking me, I'm going to fight to the bitter end. And I seen in this previous fight he wasn't able to fight to the bitter end. So I figured if I got a hold of his neck, he'd probably give up.
And at the time of asking you this question, Fernando Padilla is making the walk right now.
Oh, shit.
A former opponent of yours.
Yes.
Did you get to talk to him at all during fight week?
Oh, yeah. I seen him at the PI, and everything's all good. I mean, I remember even after that fight, he came up to me and he was like, yeah, they stopped it a bit too early. But there's all respect. I mean, I have all the respect for anybody I fought. I mean, Nate Landwehr, kind of iffy because he's just a bit of a hard ass, and he just didn't, a little disrespectful in a sense. But I mean, most everybody that I've fought, I'm really cool with. I mean, we're the same person basically. We're just fighting for the same thing.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.